we're going live now. Yay. Hey, I think we're wearing the same top. Guys, hello.
That's our twins thing, because we were twins in a past life.
Yeah, definitely. That's so funny. Guys,
We
hello.
shop together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good morning.
Nicola
Good
here.
afternoon.
I'm joined with Teresa today from Conscious Crypto Traders. How you doing?
Good to see everyone. Awesome to have you guys here.
Yeah, brilliant. We've got Jose's already here. Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely, Jose. So, hey, while we're just waiting for people to show up, if you haven't liked the stream, we would love you to do that because we put a lot of effort into this, and we're going to get started. So, it's weekend trading, and what I have in front of me is an imperfect look at last year when we were in Saturn retrograde, which is an astrological event that we can sometimes see patterns playing out in the stock market and in the crypto market because of what's going on. Now, Saturn, if you take a look on the purple chart here, top right-hand corner where I've got retarded speed, Saturn retrograde last year, 2020, started on the 10th of May. This year it started on the 23rd of May. And what I'm noticing is that the trading pattern from last year is repeating, right, this year. So this means that we can potentially be on the lookout for what might be ahead. Now, if we look at Saturn retrograde on Bitcoin, what I want to do is I want to show you this fractal so that you've got some dates on what to expect with price action. Then we'll look at Bitcoin. Where are we headed? We'll talk about weekend trading. Teresa, weekend trading is different from the week, yeah?
Absolutely. Sorry, I had myself on mute and I'm talking, wondering why there's no sound. Yeah, for sure. There's always way lower volume on the weekends. So what we expect on the weekend is never the same as what we would expect during the week.
Yeah. And so we might want to adjust our thinking, our mindset, and our strategy because of it. So we're going to talk about that. Then we'll look at price action, technical analysis for Ethereum and for XRP. And if you've got another coin you want us to go to, that would be great. Hi, Kid Harlequin. Nice to have you here as well. Great. We're getting comments. We're a new channel, so we would appreciate you liking as well as subscribing. We do upload videos daily teaching you technical analysis. We are a tutorial channel. And we also do a live stream every Wednesday on market analysis for the week. And at the moment, during this time where we're gearing up for a really big move, we are going live daily. So you want to get notified with all of that. When we do our live streams, we don't just do technical analysis. We want to teach you how to think about trading. Whoops.
One of us has our alarms on.
That's me. That trading view alarm. So obviously something's gone.
Now I'm like, flip over to trading view. What's going on that your alarms are going off?
We could do that. We'll do that.
You know, I think we should actually, if the alarms are going off.
Oh yeah, Ethereum's coming down to 2000, which is what I posted in Crypto Ninjas this morning.
Yeah.
We could have a bit of, which happens on a Friday, guys, but we're going to talk about that. But let's have a look at what to expect here. If we look at Saturn retrograde, May 10th, 2020, you'll see this over here on the left-hand side, this green candle, then we've got a red candle. As we come into the retrograde period, we start dipping down quite substantially, bounce up, and start trading sideways within a fairly big range, right? In 2020, it was within a range of $3,000 because we hadn't reached the tens of thousands of dollars. Now we're in the tens of thousands of dollars. If you come up to the black chart, and you will see again, red candle as we come into retrograde, we've already started to go down and then we plunge down. Then we bounce up and we start trading within $11,000, right? At the bottom to the top, it's about an $11,000 range. Now, see how we have started to get tighter and tighter in the trading. So we're not swinging so low and we're not swinging so high, even though we have been posting lower highs. right? So we're squeezing up. Now you come back down onto the purple where the arrow is, you can see that we started trading in a tighter range, right? We weren't going as high, and we found a bottom, and we weren't going very low. Now, this is really important. This next week, which is from last year, here is where it even got tighter. We came down a little bit, and then we swung back up, and then we went shunk across and down like a really big wide Bart Simpson head. So let's have a look at our chart on the black. Approximately the 2nd of August, say to the 2nd to the 8th of August, is when, if we continue to follow the same pattern as last year, we might start to see an incline and go up. But before that happens, we could see a little bit more downward price action or sideways action till the end of the month, and which is what you said, Teresa, right? A couple of weeks ago, you said we're probably going to trade sideways, within a range for the next couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people in the trading industry are waiting to see happen is we're waiting for that miners hash rate recapitulation signal to flash, right? And it's stabilized, it's now going sideways, but we haven't got the buy signal, and we're probably not going to get it for 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what that's looking like. And that's usually the thing that signals the big bull run, coincidentally coinciding when the Saturn retrograde is shifting.
Yeah.
Right. So whenever we've got like 2 major indicators saying, hey, maybe the bear runs over, that's when I start looking at, okay, now comes the window where we start scaling into the really big trades. Mm-hmm. Until we see those huge signals, we're trading the shorter patterns. We're not trying to open multi-day trades and keep them open. Like this last trade was another example of we didn't hit the target and the market turned around. Yep. And that's been happening now for 6 weeks. Didn't hit the target and the market turned around, right? So I think we're still didn't hit the market, and we're going to turn around likely until this Saturn retrograde ends. And I actually think once it ends, we're probably going to see that hash rate indicator flash.
Yeah. So exactly. So if any of you aren't familiar with astrology, you really don't need to be. It's like, I just like to observe it because I know that who was a trader who used astrology and said
W.D. Gann. Yeah, W.D. Gann was the first one to really pioneer it. And he was a highly successful trader, one of the most successful traders of all time.
Yeah. And what was the quote? Didn't he say something like successful traders don't use astrology. Really successful traders do. He said something like that. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. So, so we're just observing.
So you can be successful without it, but it's really important to understand these macro level forces you're trading within, because it changes your trading strategy. Right?
Absolutely. And not only that, it gives you a little bit of forewarning to be on alert with your alarms going off, right? Because we could get sudden price action. So let's continue looking at this. Here, down the bottom again on the blue chart, at the bottom where we start getting tighter and tighter, we come down just a little bit, then we start swinging up, and then all of a sudden we shoot up. So if we're going to follow this same pattern, that trajectory where we start going up is around about the 2nd of August, give or take a week. We're going to be monitoring this, so you will see more about a talk about this, and then we might get the shoot up somewhere not long after that. Then we get a dump, and I've got the dump potentially around the 15th of September, which is interesting because we go into a Shemitah year, which is a Jewish calendar event, like where they do years of, what do you call it, cycles of 7. So every 7 years we usually see some kind of a stock market crash. So September, October is around about when there's been a forecast of a stock market crash, unless we get massive manipulation. And if that happens, usually Bitcoin goes down, but we recover. The crypto market recovers faster than the stock market, which is perfectly timed for what's going on, in the fractal, if it repeats this year for Saturn retrograde, because as we come down, coming back to the purple down the bottom here again, then we start swinging back up again, a little bit more dipping, and when Saturn goes progressive, which basically means it tilts its axis back to where it was before it tilted its axis when it went retrograde. Last year it was the 28th of September. This year it's around about the 10th of October. We then see a little bit more sideways action, and then boom, we're in the bull run. Right?
Yeah.
Off we go.
I think that's a really good point to talk about the Schmieder year too. Jeroen van Lange on his channel, The Blockchain Today, just did a whole video on the Schmieder year. And there's a book written about it. And sometimes we see the correction at the beginning of the year. Sometimes we see the correction at the end of the year, but there's almost always a correction during a Schmieder year. So it's good to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And Jeroen's one of our speakers at the upcoming Conscious Crypto event that we're doing in October. So we get to ask him more about that right at the time when this meter year is going to be taking effect. So I'm really keen to keep that conversation active, because that's often a really important year from a standpoint of any kind of asset, stocks, bonds, and currency trading.
Yeah. So we're going to look at Bitcoin in just a minute, see if there's any trades there for us. But first of all, it's very interesting that Saturn retrograde falls around about when we're going to have our Conscious Crypto event for traders, the very first event in the world, just for you, just for crypto traders. So you need to be there, and you need to get your early bird ticket. Now, it's interesting because we planned the dates for after the Saturn comes out of retrograde, so that we can see what kind of strategies do we need as we're going into what we're thinking might be a super cycle. So if we're going into a super cycle, this is where millionaires and multimillionaires and billionaires are made. So if you want to be one of them, you're going to want to hear the strategies of MMCrypto, who's confirmed to speak about creating legendary profits. Da Vinci J15 is talking about little strategies to make, your small amount of Bitcoin into a big amount of Bitcoin. We have Michael Rosmer from Offshore Citizen talking about, well, how do you minimize your taxes and maximize your gains? I'm going to be doing things on psychology habits and mindset habits and managing your emotions. We've got a couple of speakers that we've just confirmed, which we'll tell you about tomorrow. We haven't got their pictures up yet. We're going to have 2 breakout sessions on technical analysis, teaching you what market indicators you need to be looking at, how to do proper and advanced technical analysis with Jeroen van Lange and Marzel Money. Then we have panels of experts. We just confirmed Didi Tahutu from the Bitcoin family.
Yeah, I just got off a call with him, so we're super excited to have Didi on.
So Jeffrey's in the process of putting his photo on here, and this will be uploaded later today. He's going to be talking about automating your indicators and automating your trade signals. And then Jeroen and Marzel and Teresa are on that panel. We're going to also have a panel on what to do at the end of the bull run. When is it? What are your exit strategies? Then more on tax structures, going offshore or working within the tax structure within your country. We're going to be talking about profitable mindset for traders, as well as managing your mind during dips and how your emotions need to be leveled out for that. We're also going to be talking about what you're going to do with all that Bitcoin once you've made it. And then how do you balance your portfolio with top picks for hodling, altcoins, DeFi, NFTs, and which ones do you need to dump because those projects might not be around. They might not solve the bear market. So perfect timing. You need to be there. You want to save $400, get your early bird ticket now. If you scroll down to the description, in just below this video, there is a link that takes you over to theconsciouscryptoevent.com/2021, and you can get $400 off if you get your ticket within the next few days. Otherwise, you're going to be paying a lot more for it if you drag your feet. So let's talk about Bitcoin. We're still trading in this downward wedge, creating lower highs. However, we are seeing a little bit of bullish momentum coming in. As you know, from if you were here on yesterday's channel, yesterday's live stream, I drew this line across here because we do seem to have had some sort of support here, dip down. This is what Teresa was talking about earlier. Come back into the pattern. And now this is on the daily, and this looks like over the next couple of days, we could be creating a potential bull flag, right? So if we go down into the 4 hourly, see if we can get, oh no, hang on a second. So you know how Teresa said we might be trading within this range within the next week or so, right? If we break out now, there is a high possibility we're going to hit 32,850 or somewhere between 33,500, 33,600, get rejected and come crashing back down because we've come out of the pattern too early. Would you agree with that, Teresa?
I would. That's why a lot of these early breakouts, everybody gets so excited about them and then they turn into fake outs. And then we realize they're just hitting other support lines in the market and they're making a bigger pattern, right?
Yeah. So let's have a look.
I think there are bigger patterns that could still be made with this lower support line, right? And I think we're going to see more market turnarounds that don't hit the target before we have the ultimate breakout that we're all waiting for.
Yeah, exactly. So when we start getting towards the pinnacle of this trade, and I was watching the guy from Chart Champions today who said he is not trading this pattern anymore, and I've stopped trading it as well. But it starts to get volatile. We don't reach the targets. We do U-turns. Like right here, everybody was shorting. So many people got wrecked when we had this U-turn going up, right? And if you've been following this channel, we're using the CM Williams VIX Fix. We had some green candles here down the bottom, if you look, which was signifying we're about to go bullish. We also had some bullish divergences, and sure enough, we swung up, which is why I got out of my short here when we hit this pink line, because I didn't think that we were going to do those big prices. Now, I want you to look at this. Are we going to lower prices is the question that's on everybody's minds. If we look at the fractal, which we seem to be following to the letter, we didn't go way down. Like, we didn't get a massive dip after the first really big dip, right? We did get another big dip here, which we've actually already had. We've played this out, but it fell short, right? So the concept of us going down to 20,000 or below 20,000, I'm not sold on that happening. Of course, it could happen, but if we look at this fractal, it didn't happen last year during this time. There was a bit of retardedness, which we're seeing on not reaching the targets, right? We're also getting significant support. We had huge buyers come in at 28,000, right? If you were watching the book, I don't know if you were watching the order book, but I was when it hit here, because I was making the decision to get out of the trade or not. It was like a boxing match. It was like the bulls and the bears going boom, 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 boom. It was going up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm going, oh my goodness, who's going to win this, right?
Yeah,
it ended up being the bulls, boom, and off we go.
But well, and you can feel the energy of those bottom moments too. Because what's been happening in the market is the market's been coming down to the logical place to join your lines, and then it's been wicking down to this lower level and wicking down hard, and it has everybody who's in a long panic and feel like they need to get out of the longs, right? Fear is going to the roof, and then the market turns around. And so I know a lot of traders have gotten out of perfectly good longs that they entered at what they thought was the bottom of the pattern, watched it drop 3 or 4%, drop hard, thinking, oh my God, I placed the trade the wrong way. And the guys who are shorting are feeling vindicated. Yeah, look, it's the short. And then the market turns around and wrecks both of them. So that pattern's been going on for the last 6 weeks. Just notice that. And we're probably going to keep seeing it until this Saturn retrograde is over.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where astrology is really helpful. But now we're going to have an advertisement break for kombucha culture. I am drinking island roots, curcuma, jengibre, lemon, and pimiento negra, which is turmeric, ginger, lemon, and a little bit of CBD oil. So there we go. You can't buy that.
If Nicola looks really happy, it's the CBD oil.
So back to the charts, guys, where it's Friday. Come on, you've got to give us a break, right? So let's have a look. Like we're in the middle of a pattern, and it is just danger territory to enter either a short or a long in the middle of a pattern, because we don't know what direction it's going to go in. If we come into the 1 hour, we want to see if we're going to go up to the pink line, which is the beginning of that's the descending line, or whether we're going to bounce off of this support level at 31,335, and that would be the time. If we bounce off that, head on up, we're going to enter along, and if we come down to up to this resistance line, might fake out a little bit, come back down, and then get a red candle under here, then you would short it to the downside. The only thing that I would be really concerned about is that volume starts to leave the market from now onwards, right? As the New York Stock Exchange quietens down, institutional buyers quieten down, then the CME closes, and then all of a sudden there's just left with the Friday afternoon retail traders who are often out with their sweeties for dinner, or cracking open a bottle of wine or whatever people do on Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So it's not until the Chinese market comes in the evening at around 6, 7, 8 o'clock tonight, US Mountain Time, that we'll see a little bit more retail action, and that's when price manipulation can happen. So what can we say to people about what to watch out for weekend trading?
Low leverage, right? And when I do weekend trading, instead of using stop losses on the system, because that's where you can get stop loss hunting happening. Well, you can get stop loss hunting happening anytime, but I use a mental stop loss instead of an actual one. In other words, I actually literally watch my trades when I'm weekend trading until they're in profit and my stop loss is in profit. I sit and watch it, or I check it every 2 to 3 minutes, because I want to see what's happening in the market. And if the market starts to go the wrong direction to invalidate the trade, I just get out of the trade quickly. Yeah. But when you use tight stop losses, you're inviting yourself to be stopped out, right? Yeah. So I use a different mindset when I'm trading on the weekends, or often I just take the weekend off and go enjoy the garden, because sometimes that's more important to the mindset reset you need. And then, you come back in Sunday afternoon when the CME is opening, and often there's a good trade to be had, because you know, 9 times out of 10, the CME gap closes within 10 hours of the CME opening. So it can be a good indication, or a good confirmation, let's call it a good confirmation, of which way the market's going to move if there's a gap.
Yeah, I usually like to scale out of my trades from this moment forward, which I have. I just got out of a Ethereum trade in a really small profit before it dumped. I'm going to show you that in a minute. I have a similar concept, but more and more though, I am just not trading on Friday afternoon through to Saturday morning, and then I'll come back in on Sunday, look at the charts, look at where the CME gap could possibly be, and start coming back in when there is volume, unless Saturday morning can often be a manipulated pump or a manipulated dump, where all of a sudden nobody sees it coming and it happens. If you catch it, market order goes in the direction, get out as soon as it hits resistance, because it could go down and then wick back up, and then you've lost, right? Or it could pump up and then wick back down, come back down again to have created a wick to the upside, and then you've lost it. So the mindset of weekend trading is not to open the trades for too long. Watch them, lower the leverage, even lower your position. And then if you see it taking off in the direction of the trade, you can always up your leverage and you can add margin, right? And that way you're protecting your capital, because you want to have capital for the bigger 30% plus move. You don't want to be mucking around, losing your capital in here and then have nothing for the bigger trade. That doesn't make any sense. And I just got goosebumps when I said that, which is anchoring in for Bitcoin. I'm not trading inside this pattern now that we're getting closer to the end. But if you want to, you're a little less conservative than myself or Teresa, you want to wait till we get a bounce off this bottom line at 31,322 and confirming it going to the upside, and then you can long it up till you hit resistance. And at the moment, we seem to be getting resistance around 32,858. We're topping out here, if you can see that.
Yeah, so let us know, guys. We'd love to hear in the chat, like, are you trading on the weekends, or do you scale out? And if so, are you long or are you short? I'd love to hear some feedback on you guys. because this is a fairly uncertain market as to which way we're going. So give us some feedback. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. We had Kid Harlequin say crypto and astrology, and it's like, yes, one of the most successful traders of all time, the grandfather of technical analysis. Many traders follow him. DW Gans used astrology. So until you fully investigate it, don't mess with it.
Yeah, astrology is just the movement of the planets, right? And we already know there's lots of documented scientific evidence that human beings are affected by the movement of the planets. Like, just go into any hospital maternity ward at a full moon, and the nurses will always tell you there's way more babies happening at a full moon, right? So we as human beings are affected by the movement of the planets. That's why more people are paying attention to Mercury retrogrades and Saturn retrogrades. And guess what? They affect the markets, not at a micro level, but more at a macro level. And actually, Jeroen van Lange, we did an interview with him. He talks about how Mercury retrograde affects the price of Bitcoin. And when you look at his charts, it's like, holy cow, yeah, almost every Mercury retrograde, you can see a market turnaround. So it's very fascinating, actually.
Yep. So you just need to remember that when we break out of this, if we break out too early, we can hit resistance. Write this down or screenshot it. 32,850. A lot of resistance at 33,500 to 33,600. We've also got this resistance lower here at 32. Just around about, just above 32,850, right? We keep topping out. So it looks like, according to that fractal we saw, we're tightening and tightening and tightening. And whenever we tighten the range between, the bottom and the top, we're getting ready to springboard. It's like a spring, if you tighten a spring and then you release it, and then it just goes all over the place, right? So I do have a bias towards a breakout to the upside rather than going down to the downside, just because we're getting too much buying going on at around 28,800. That's the number to watch. That's the magic number. If we go below 28,800, we're probably going to get a whole lot of FOMOing down to the lower prices. But at the moment, I'm not seeing that. So let's look at what the Ichimoku cloud is telling us, which is something that Teresa and I use a lot, because the Ichimoku cloud throws out potential price action ahead of time. So it's not a predictive tool. It's more, that's the wrong one. It's more like, this is the likelihood of price action. And you can see right here, I spoke about this in Crypto Ninjas this morning. See this V in the Ichimoku cloud? Before we get to a V or right on the V, you normally see a dip if you see these Vs. And right on target, boom, we saw a dip just before we got to it. But we're above, the Ichimoku cloud is looking bullish. We're above it, but it looks like we could be trading sideways going into the weekend, which is always, a little bit dangerous, hence taking some time off and coming back on Sunday for Bitcoin specifically, right? So we are looking more bullish than bearish at the moment. So this is a waiting game. And as I said, we're going live tomorrow, so we'll see tomorrow morning whether or not there is a trade there on Saturday. Quite often not. Quite often you're paying all of these fees to hold a trade open, which is essentially, going sideways between $100, right? So that's not profitable. But let's have a look at Ethereum, because Ethereum's more bullish. Mm-hmm. So here we've been respecting the channels. We've come down on this channel here. We came up, we met the target exactly. So Ethereum is a little bit more predictable than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been doing U-turns, but Ethereum is, it's almost starting to set off a trajectory of its own individuality, which is interesting because Saturn is in Aquarius, which is the planet of the sign of individuality. Anyway, if we keep going up on this channel, we come down on this channel, descending channels break to the upside 80% of the time, right? So boom, we broke to the upside. Then we came down and we broke to the upside. Now we're going up in an ascending channel, which we've either just had a fake out or a breakout of. We just have to wait for a few more hour candles before we know what's going on. But look how narrow that range has got, Teresa.
Yeah, really narrow. So this could just be a reconfirmation of a support line.
Yeah.
Because there isn't the kind of volume you would normally want to see to be placing a short, unless you got it right as it was breaking out, in which case you're scalping, right?
Yeah.
But to really be confident that this is going to hit the bottom of the pattern, this is not something I would be shorting. This is something I'd be waiting.
Yeah, exactly. And shorts over the weekend, el dangereux, And I don't even know if that's a word, but I like
it is now.
kombucha culture with so
CBD oil, your best friend.
yeah. So anyway, let's look at the technical analysis. An ascending channel breaks to the downside more often than it does to the upside. However, we're breaking out of this. It's a confirmed breakout of a descending channel with a target of 2,412. We've met resistance here on this green line that I've drawn here at around 2,078, 2,080, and we got rejected a few times. And when you get rejected a few times, often that's a signal that we're going to go back down, build momentum, go for another run at it, right? So now we're watching to see if this is going to reverse. But bottom line is we're still in a bullish trending pattern to the upside to fulfill this target. And when we do, we would have created a W, which at the level of the 4 hour or the daily, that is a massive trend reversal to the upside. And if we fulfill that W, then we're looking at, I've drawn the lines here. We're looking at several places to stop off at. We're looking at 2,620 as potential rejection point. The golden ratio of the entire market is at 2,900. And then we've got the ultimate target of the triangle, and the W is at around 31,034. So those are all take profit areas. You might want to screenshot all of that or write them down. When you get into a long, you might start taking profit out at these points. Usually what I do is I'll take out 75% if I think we're going to get a reversal, or 50% if we're going to continue. And then you just add to the trade when we get the dip. Like here, you could have taken profit at 2091 when you saw, we're reaching resistance. We've got the top here. Let me just take profit out because I don't want to lose the trade because I got in down here, right? But I want to take some profit out just in case we do get a bigger dump. And then we look for getting back into the trade when we do a reversal here. So let's go down into the 1 hour to see if we've already started reversing. And we have. Look at that. However, what does everybody see? Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, nice M, isn't it? Yeah.
Perfect M touching the support line perfectly. So unfortunately, we could see further downward action. We might not see it this afternoon. It might be when the Chinese market comes on this evening, because when they come on, when the daily candle prints, the CME closes, the New York Stock Exchange closes, so your institutional buyers aren't in the market. On a Friday night, we can see them push it one way or the other. Whichever way you're expecting them to push it, often they'll push it the other way.
Well, and that almost looks like a mini Head and Shoulders, right? Like if you look at one more thing next to that, but if you look at the target of that Head and Shoulders, we're 3/4 of the way to meeting it already, right? So like if you took left shoulder, head, shoulder, exactly. Now the target would be that top part down to the neckline. And given we're in a month of generally not meeting the target, but we're not at the target yet. But it's probably not going to go that far before it turns around if that's what that is playing out. So,
Good
worth
spotting
it
that girl. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, well, M's are often half of a head and shoulders, so it's worth it. Same with W's. Often we're focused on the W and we forget to look one pattern over, right? So
Right.
W's are often half of it, or 2/3 of a head and shoulders, rather, not
Well,
half.
let's
My
have a look
math
at
is
that.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's have a look at that because I haven't. Yeah, this is part of the reason. Like at the end of each week, I usually delete all my lines and then I'll come back in and have a look at them again for that reason because you can often miss. Yeah, but this is pretty double bottomy to me, right? Pretty even. So I don't think that's going to be a head and shoulder.
Yeah.
An
It
inverse
does
head
look like a
and
double
shoulder.
bottom. And in this case, with the second trough of the W is not lower than the first trough, which would make it a head and shoulders,
Yeah.
or an inverse head and shoulders, rather.
The other,
Yeah.
sorry, Teresa. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the key distinctions, right? You want a lower price action on whatever the middle part is. But the one we were just looking at, the middle one is higher. So
Yeah. But and what's good about that is when you get a double bottom, when you get a bottom at the bottom of a market after you've had a big dip, if we come down for this W, then we go back up. If this part of the W is slightly higher than the first part, that is another bullish indication, right?
that's
So
why
let's
it's so great living in Vistamundo and having neighbors who are traders. Because, sometimes you get myopic looking at your charts, and it's nice to have somebody else say, hey, what you just drew there, that actually looks like it's a bigger pattern or something else, or you're missing this support line or this resistance line. So yeah,
yeah.
it's really cool.
So we're waiting. I would even wait. Like if we waited a couple of hours, that's when all the exchanges start closing. And so I would say it's sitting on the sidelines, guys. Really preserve that capital. If you want to get back into this long with Ethereum, I would be waiting for a green candle. Then this is what we use. And we did a huge lesson on this yesterday in yesterday's live stream on using the Ichimoku cloud to see which direction we're going in. Look, we got a dip in the Ichimoku cloud. Often we'll get a dip in price. So we could go lower, right? And then we'll bounce back up possibly and slowly head back up. So I think this long, if you're already in the long, I think it's still good, right? If you got in down here or if you got down here, remember that if we break out and we come back down to this target here, which is the head and shoulders, then no, the M rather, then that's 1927. That takes us to around about the target of the top of the bottom of the this wedge here. And then what we would have done is just come back to retest the descending wedge we've broken out of to test this as a support line or to test this line here at 1862 as a support line and got rejected higher up, got rejected off the Ichimoku cloud to signify a higher low, which again is showing bullish tendencies of a trend reversal to the upside, right? So bottom line is, if you're looking to get into a long, if you're not already in it, then you might want to be looking at a bounce off of here in the next 4 hour candle. I would wait since it's weekend trading around about 2002. Or if we come back down again, that's a nice short. If we confirm the short there and we come back down, hit the cloud for this target here of 1925, you might look at entering in at around about 1991, depending on on what's happening at the time on the Ichimoku cloud. But here's the deal. I wouldn't enter a short because you don't enter shorts above a green Ichimoku cloud because this is where U-turns can happen, right?
Yeah, I'm in agreement on that one.
Yep. So this is what could happen right now. Whenever we break out of a pattern, most of the time, but not always, I don't know, 90%, 95% of the time, we reconfirm the breakout by going back up to what was previously the support line to confirm it as resistance, right? We're broken down. Now we're going to go back up. Somewhere along the line, we will either U-turn and come back down. So we confirm this line is no longer a support line. It is now a resistance line, in which case this target comes into play of 1927, I think I called it, somewhere around there. And let's say 1922 actually as a better target. Or the M, which is 1926. So you might take some profit at 1926, leave 25% in to see if it goes a little bit lower. So that would be a short, right? If we come back up here, retest this as resistance, turn around and start coming back down and the Ichimoku cloud's red, that would be a short. But I think we've got too much bullish momentum. Look at this bullish divergence here, Teresa.
Yeah, that's a serious bullish divergence. So I would never enter a short with a divergence like that on the RSI, personally.
No. And also the CM Williams VIX, it's got 3 green candles. And if you have a look at when we had several green candles over here to your left, coming up on the charts here, boom, this was it. We were going here. This was a signal that we're going to have a massive move to the upside.
Yeah, we've got a bullish RSI, we've got a bullish VIX, we've got a bullish Ichimoku cloud. Don't be shorting or closing out your longs right now. Yeah. Like, I think you're good at the moment. At the moment. You always want to watch it, but this is a point where the market's actually looking short-term bullish.
Yeah. So what we want to do, oh, by the way, guys, we have more people watching than we have likes. We're a new channel and we'd like you to like us and click that like button because that really does help us get our tutorials out to people. We're doing free technical analysis, right? And not only are we doing that, we're teaching you technical analysis so you can do it for yourself when we're sleeping or when we're not online. And you need that. You need those skills. So let's go down to the 1 minute to see if we've got any entry points here. See, I wouldn't enter along here just yet. I'd want confirmation we're going up because on the 1 minute we could still see a little bit further downward action, and you could get a better what do you call it? A better
entry point. Yeah. Like this is a great example of where when the short term is in disagreement with the long term, this is bearish on the short term, right? So that doesn't mean major market correction or enter a short. It just means if you're entering a long, there's a better entry position.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's coming up too, because look, we've just flashed by, and this isn't 100% reliable, but look at the blue line is above the green line. That is the Ichimoku cloud conversion line, literally just flipped. So that is showing early signs that we will have a trend reversal to the upside. I would just want to see this cloud flip green so that we're not going to get into a long and then all of a sudden it's going to go down lower and you could have got a lower entry point.
Is your kitchen sun green on your Ichimoku? Is that the green line or is that your lagging span?
The lagging span is purple.
Oh, that one's okay. You use a different color coding to me. Yeah. So usually when the blue crosses what on Nicola's is the green, on some Ichimoku clouds it's red. That's why I was just double checking.
Yeah.
Usually when blue crosses up, that's a strong bullish indicator, even though the cloud right now is looking bearish.
Yeah.
Right. So we might see a little bit of a retracement back down. The edges of the cloud often act as support, or the baseline or the conversion line often act as support too. So we might see a little bit of coming down, a little bit of softening price, so there's a better entry point. But in general, this short-term cloud is or the short-term Ichimoku cloud is saying, hey, there's lots of bullish indicators here.
Yeah. And because we've got this dip in the Ichimoku cloud, often that can be a sudden move. So I would probably want to see how this candle is going to close and then look at where we start the next candle at the top of the hour to confirm it. And then you could scalp it up to here, see if we're going to reverse, come back down, get out, and then short it down if all of those indicators we've been talking about it are good. But because we've got these green lines here, I'm looking at potentially we could come back into the pattern or establish a different pattern to play out the top of this pattern because the ultimate target is 2,400. So now what we're doing is we're looking for a good entry point. And Friday afternoon, I kid you not, I speak from experience. I speak from losing some cryptos by entering a trade on Friday afternoon when there wasn't a lot of volume. What happens is it looks good, right? And so you enter and then all of a sudden volume goes out and then it comes back down and you're sitting in the red for 3 days and you're paying fees every 8 hours. So you're paying to be in the red. I mean, you only want to pay fees when you're in profit, right? So the profit counterbalances your fees. So this is why it's really good to be conservative on a Friday going into Saturday morning, because Saturday morning you could get a better entry point. That's me, right? That's just me.
Yeah. Well, Randall at Crypto Love, another one of our favorite YouTubers, talks about that Friday afternoon, Friday evening, statistically is always the best time to buy Bitcoin. In other words, it's usually the weekly low more often than any other time.
Yeah.
So, so what we might be seeing here is actually a retest of what was the former pattern we just broke out of. So we might, in fact, come all the way down to one of those lower support lines before we start going up again. And that's a possibility to watch for right now. So
in which
it's
case
just,
you could get a better entry point, right? Which is what we're saying. Wait for a better entry point. We'll be online. Well, I will be online tomorrow at 11:30 US Mountain Time. So we'll see what happens. And if something exciting is happening, and I'm back from the farmers market earlier, I'll jump on a little bit earlier if we need to.
gotta do the farmers market on a Saturday morning though, because it's just so fun to go to a Costa Rican farmers market. All the groceries you can eat for $40. It's amazing.
We're high class hippies. Like
And good for your mindset. Yeah. Well, you know, like there's a lot of highly successful traders are people who meditate and do a lot of self-work. Because to be profitable, you got to be doing your self-work, right? If you're trading from a place of fear or FOMO, and that's why we created the Conscious Crypto event to support you guys, because if you relate to, I got out of perfectly good trades because I got scared when the wicks down happened, or I got out of perfectly good trades too early because the fear was too high, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt was too high, then this event is going to really help you, because we're talking about mindset. And if you don't situate trading in a bigger lifestyle where you're really managing how your mental attitude goes, that's why we're one of the first channels and one of the first brands to bring together mindset with trading, because really that's what makes the upper 1% of traders.
Yeah. Yeah. So 19 of you have not liked.
We so appreciate it when you like the channel. Thanks, guys. And hit the notification bell and subscribe for us, because we'd love to have you as part of our conversations more often. We'd love to hear your comments on what you want to hear more of. And, you know, let us know what your questions are. So, and thank you for the great feedback comments, like Mark Weiss. Thank you. That's a beautiful comment.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Is it Syed or Syed? Is that how you pronounce your name? Syed Reza? Hi.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and joining us here. It's been really fun having you here.
Let's look at XRP. This is another thing we can talk about, Teresa, in terms of having different strategies for different coins because they behave differently. Like Bitcoin has these wide swings often in price because it's more expensive now, right? Whereas one of the good things about XRP is it's pretty reliable in its channels, loves to trade channels. On the daily, we have a bullish, we've had bearish price action, obviously, lower lows, but this is a bullish pattern, breaks to the upside more often than not, and it looks like it wants to break out. We could keep trading all the way back down to the support level at 51.80, or even wick back down to 50. But if you have a look at this trajectory of where I've placed this line, depending on where you put it, this could, we've got a whole lot of white space, so I would not call this a descending wedge, narrowing wedge rather, or a symmetrical triangle, just because there aren't enough candles touching. But I'm putting this here to show that there's significant support there. And moreover, the pattern really is this descending channel. So if we come down into the 4-hourly.
That's actually a really good point. I don't want to step over that point. Enough candle touches defines the pattern, right? But in the absence of at least 3 candle touches, that doesn't mean you ignore that line, because it might be a bigger pattern that's about to develop. Like, how many times have we seen that in the past 6 weeks, where there was lines that had only 2 candle touches on them, but by the time the market goes beyond the current pattern and turns around, oh, now we've got a 3rd candle touch on that line. So you still pay
That's
attention. You still pay attention to those lines. That's why a lot of seasoned traders, when you look at our real charts, there's a lot more lines than what we're showing you on the, like, this is what a real chart looks like, what Nicola's showing you right now, right? Because even though we might not be trading those lines, we're still paying attention to those lines.
Beautiful distinction.
Yeah.
And that happened with Ethereum, right? As price action continued, right, we all of a sudden we went, oh, look, we got a W forming inside of an ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern, right? So as time goes by, the bigger pattern can show. So we do observe it, but we trade what's in front of us, right? So with Ethereum, XRP, we broke out with this significant resistance between 60 cents, 6090 and 63 cents. So until we get over 63 cents, we could come back down. And I said that yesterday, which is exactly what happened. We came back down and we retested this ascending line here as support, right? So now we might need to redraw these lines, and we see that we've got an ascending channel which breaks to the downside more often. So what we might see for XRP, and XRP is difficult because there's a lot of price manipulation on XRP, but we could see this, and then it comes up and then it comes back down because it breaks to the downside to retest this line here as support and then go back up. That would be the bullish scenario to watch out for. Because when we break down from an ascending ascending wedge, we go back to where the first candle touched the wedge, which is at around 55 cents. Actually, so that places it here. Let's just put an X here. X marks the spot to see if we come close to coming back down to 54.78.
I love that. We'll see how good of a predictor Nicola is.
Well, hey, look, let's bring in the Ichimoku, and because Ichimoku, remember that big lesson I had? Don't mess with the Ichimoku.
Yes, that's one of, I quote Nicola on that one now. Don't mess with the Ichimoku.
See, the Ichimoku slightly bullish, and so is the 4MA. And look at that down the bottom here, green candles, folks, on the CM. Here we go. CM Williams VIX Fix. For those of you, this is looking at, it's predicting bottoms. So you get this indicator for free on TradingView. If you go to indicators, you go to public library, and there it is there. CM Williams VIX Fix finds market bottoms, right? So these candles are showing that we've got some bottoms in here, and we're going to flip to the upside. So one of the things that's different with XRP with weekend trading is XRP is often easier to trade in the weekend. I don't know why, but often you can scalp from here, get above this resistance line here from 58, 55 up to 62, 61 cents. What is that as a percentage? If you did that 10x, that is a 40% trade, which is nice for the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So what I'd be doing is I would be waiting for this candle to come up above, because we've got a breakout. Look, we had a breakout, came back down, retested it, came back up. It didn't happen. We failed to have a proper breakout, come back down, and we're bouncing down lower lows, right? So we've probably got several hours before we might see an upswing. So I'd be watching for green candle above. And the reason for that is there'll be some swing traders who are experienced enough to know that they can put a trade in here and they'll trade it all the way up to the top. The problem with that is on a Friday, putting in a trade is it could equally touch this, come back down. And since this is an ascending wedge, could break back down and come in here, in which case at 55 cents, you could get a better entry point. So it's not the price, like if you're spot trading, you want to buy at the lowest price possible. But if you're leverage trading, you want to buy the price that's not going to reverse on you for the profit margin, for the profit that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and use good risk management. I've got some videos on risk management to give you guys a risk management system that you might want to go watch, like how to use your leverage level and stop loss to determine a risk management strategy. We actually got a question from Ashton Christopher. Thanks for the question, Ashton. He says, don't all these patterns get invalidated if and when the stock market crashes and take the crypto market with it? Would it be best to sell at the top of this current pattern and then have cash ready? That's a great question. Do you want to weigh in on that one first and then I'll comment, or? Yeah.
Yeah, like it depends. To me, it depends. If you're talking about spot trading, right? If you're talking about spot trading, whereby you want to sell at the top of the market and buy at the bottom of the market, so that you're increasing the amount of Bitcoin that you've got or whatever the coin is, that is a really good strategy. The problem with that is that if there are bullish signs on the chart, that can contradict. So patterns in general usually play out somewhere between 80 to 90% of the time, right? And then the other 20 to 10% of the time they don't play out. When the stock market crashes, what can often happen in crypto that I observed over the last couple of years is that the price goes down, but then buyers come in so effing fast that it just goes right back up to where you were. And if you didn't catch that, you're buying back in at a higher price than you sold at. And that's the danger. So if you've got your buy orders in before you sell, right, which means you need some cash on hand to do that, then you've got to know that. And this is what can help you with this. I'll just show you. You want to get your Fibonacci's in place to do that.
Yeah, the Fibonacci retracement lines are so often really happens. And Christopher, while Nicola's pulling out her Fibonacci tool, what I want to say about this is market dumping can be one of the best opportunities to make massive amounts of money. Because especially for crypto, Bitcoin most especially, when we have massive market dumping, we usually get a hard rebound. Like go back in the charts and you'll see it. And so if you can trade both the dump and the rebound, you can make a lot of money. So it depends on whether you're leverage trading or spot trading. The big thing I would encourage you to do, though, is think about it in advance and have a strategy in advance and stick to it. I actually did a whole video on how to trade market dumping. I think that's up on the channel now, Nicola?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a strategy I use when market dumping's happening, right? I have a list of things I gotta do. And in fact, I have them written down. So if I'm deer in the headlights, whoa, market dumping, and I'm in along and it's going south, I go look at my list and it's like, okay, reverse my trade, cancel all my active orders, watch what's going on. I have a checklist that I go through when I'm market dumping, if market dumping is going on, and traded right, market dumping can double your portfolio overnight, like in the space of 20 minutes. You know, I'm exaggerating, but it can happen. So
I'm going to turn the Ichimoku cloud off for now so you can see price action. This was the COVID dump. We actually had already started to go down in the crypto market anyway. And then when the stock market went down in reaction to the COVID dump, we didn't dump as hard.
We have to be careful about saying that word. We can get banned on YouTube for saying that word. We're going to call it the C dump.
Okay. Yeah. So as we came down a little bit slower than we did, and then obviously this was I think this was the P word, right? The P word really took place, and then here, but we recovered pretty quickly compared to the stock market. So that's just something to watch out for. Okay. So getting back to your question there, Ashton. Oh, thanks, honey. He said we're a godsend. You want to be getting your Fibonacci retracement tool, and you'll see I started it at the swing high, the top of the market, and I brought it back down to where we began the bull run right here, so that now I've got market structure for the entire market. You can also do Fibonacci's for the movements. You can come in and let's do another Fibonacci for this entire move here, so we can get smaller lines. So we would go Fibonacci retracement. This time I would reverse it. I would go to the bottom, draw it up to there, and look for the golden ratio, because if we get a dump, it's usually the golden ratio that we go down to. Not always, right?
Yeah, but 9 times out of 10, those are important levels when market dumping is happening going.
But if you're selling, and I did this, if you're selling you need to have a buy order in immediately after selling, because it could wick down there. And this is where you use your Fibonacci levels to see where it could go to, right? And I'll give you an example of this. When Ethereum was going to $3,000, everybody was talking about it's a psychological barrier, it's going to hit $3,000 and then it's going to dump on us, and that, so everybody's going to go in and short at 3,000. And let's have a look at what happened with Ethereum when it hit 3,000. Here it is, here, this candle here, it didn't correct. I sold Ethereum, right? I sold Ethereum. It didn't correct. It did not. The psychological barrier didn't correct. The FOMO hit and we shot up, and we went weeks and weeks and weeks of going up and up and up and up. So if that meant if I'd sold it at 3,000, I would have had to have waited 4 weeks to have it in USDT, making no money, having no capital gain, and then buy back in when it finally comes back down under, $2,000, right? And I've got all of those weeks happening. So this is what I did. I actually, I sold it at 3,000. I didn't sell all of it. I only sold 50%. And then I went, you know what? I'm going to buy another coin that's rising. So I bought ADA, and then I rode it to the top, sold the ADA, and then we had the crash, and I could buy back into the Ethereum. So that meant there were weeks where I was making a profit instead of making nothing.
Yeah, beautiful. Actually, that chart, if you pull it over, look at the red candle that comes down there. So when the market dumping started happening with Ethereum, right? Look at that red candle, and then look at how, if you just move your price action up a bit, look at the wick. So look at how far it came down and then how hard it wicked back up, right? Massive price action there, right? Yeah. So if you had traded that on the way down and then caught the bottom and traded the bounce, like whenever there's a market dumping, there's always a bounce, right? And the thing to remember is, like, when you think about market dumping, fear is high. And it's like a frickin' freight train, right? So there are traders who put low leverage buy orders down at the fib levels to try and catch the bottom of the dump. Personally, I would rather short the dump and watch what's going on. And then when it runs out of momentum, I start putting very small, low leverage longs in at the bottom just to see if the market's still drawing down. Like, I'll put limit orders in. So I'll put like $1,000 limit order and see, does it draw down to catch it? Because if it's drawing down, it hasn't lost its momentum, right? And I wait until it's not drawing down before I start putting in bigger trades. I start with low leverage, but as soon as it starts moving up, and it'll move up hard and fast, like sometimes in the space of an hour, it'll recover $7,000 to $8,000 in the space of an hour after a hard market dumping, right? Yeah. So you don't go in with higher leverage and tighter stop losses until that forward momentum starts. And that's the way you trade market dumping. Don't stand in the way of a moving freight train. Like, you don't try and get on a train while it's still moving. You wait till it stops and then you get on it. But that's just my personal philosophy. But you can make a decent amount of money when market dumping happens if you practice in your head beforehand and have a checklist and go through your checklist. And trade it correctly, you can make a lot of money. The first step, though, is don't be afraid to get out of your long. Because, when these market dumping situations happen, 50% of the time, a bunch of us are in longs. And if we deer in the headlights, we're like, oh my God, look at my long going south. I'm going to hit my stop loss. And then you've got all this emotional energy that stops you from trading the market dumping effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. So the bottom line for you, Ashton, is I wouldn't sell just because the stock market is crashing unless it's a big dump, right? I would still be looking at market tops. You want, like here, right here, we knew for several days that we were overdue. Look at the RSI. We were way overdue for a big dump. We just went up and up and up and up without any correction. So then, that would have been the time to have sold. I sold too early because right here, when I sold at 3,000, there was no indication in the market that it was going to reverse to the downside. Right, it went above the golden ratio. When price action goes above the golden ratio, that it's a big thing to then turn around and reverse. Right, it usually bounces up, pumps up a little bit more. So there were no signs, but I sold anyway, and that was just a really dumb thing that I did because of the FUD. Everybody was saying that it's a psychological level, and we're going to get rejected, and we didn't. So that's why it's good to just glue your eyes onto the charts and look for the market tops. So the market top here, if we go down into the 4 hourly, was there a head and shoulders at the top there?
I don't remember on that one.
I can't remember.
I think there might have been with Ethereum. I think we had a head and shoulders form. Yeah.
We had a head and shoulder. So what you would have done is you would have gone here, you would have looked here, you would have looked at right here when we got to 4,000. We reached this Fibonacci level at 4,390. I think we finally got to. And if you had looked down at the RSI, it's at the top. That's a pretty good indication that at some stage
bearish divergence like you wouldn't believe.
Bearish divergence. Look, boom, there it is. And then you could have sold there and then bought back in once we did it here. But and here's another top here. You could have sold there. Yeah. But
that's a textbook head and shoulders, like broke down, reconfirmed the neckline, and then plummeted the market, right? So that's about as clean as a head and shoulders gets, right?
So the bottom line is you wouldn't do it just because of the stock market. You'd want to see some other indications as well, because Bitcoin can recover faster and it can wick up. And then the next thing you know, you're going to have to buy back in at higher rates. So get your Fibonacci retracement tool out, have a look at where it could go, get your indicators in place. We like to use the Ichimoku cloud because it gives us really good direction. There's lots of trainings on using the Ichimoku cloud for free on YouTube. I like using this Williams VIX Fix thing now. I'm finding that really useful. Get your indicators in place. Don't just sell because of news, because fundamentals so often can get people wrecked, right?
Yeah. Don't buy or sell based on emotion either.
Yeah.
Like have checklists and have strategies and have a risk management strategy. And in that moment of high FUD, when you're like, oh, I had a buy order in, but the market's wicking down and now my buy order's $300 in the red, and I'm wondering if I should get out of it because the market's still coming down. Do you have a checklist in that moment that you go through to say, is this a trade I want to get out of or isn't it? Like, do you check the RSI? Do you check what's happening on the Ichimoku? Do you look at it from fresh eyes to say, would I be entering a long right now, or would I be entering a short right now if I were entering the market and this emotion wasn't happening for me? So you want to practice that in your head and then do it in real life when it happens. Because if you're trading based on emotion, you're losing a lot of money. That's why we created the Conscious Crypto event, to help you get on top of not trading based on emotion.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, the link is below. It's the consciouscryptoevent.com/2021 to get $400 off your ticket before the price goes up. So let's just finish off on XRP, because as we've been talking, didn't see that. Look at that. That's a head and shoulders here for us on XRP.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So remember I said trading in an ascending wedge often breaks to the downside more often than it breaks to the upside. So at the moment, we're looking for this support line very closely to see if we are going to get a break to the downside here, right? We could go up here, keep getting rejected, and then boom, come down and complete that, which brings us down to 56.28. And if we're doing 56.28, we're probably going to go down to the bottom where this channel started, which is at around 55 cents, give or take. So let's bring in, we talked about Fibonacci levels. Let's bring in Fibonacci's just for this. movement here to see if we've got confluence. So when you want to know where it's going to retrace to the downside, you want to get the lowest candle. I would probably go here for this whole movement, and then you go to the top, starting to get a bit busy. This is why my charts get really busy. And you will see we've got significant support at 57.39. We've got the golden ratio. So if we break the golden ratio, then we will go down to lower, probably. Gravity will pull us down lower. But we could also, remember Teresa said right at the beginning, we've been U-turning on patterns and not fulfilling them, right? And patterns do get invalidated, which is why we wait and we look for volume, and we're losing volume for the rest of the day here, right? So waiting game. I think we're going to get a better entry point for a long. And I don't even think that's worth taking a short. One of the things that I really love about MMCrypto is he says he doesn't short bull markets because they U-turn on you so much. And like, even if you shorted that, unless you were scalping with high leverage, that's not really worth it, because you've got too many support lines you could bounce off of before you get to your target and actually not reach your target, which means you're paying all these fees, but you're not getting that profit.
Yeah, it's not a really big and beautiful pattern right now. But that said, if you're in a long that you entered way back when, and you're trying to decide whether to get out of the long, it's probably going to reconfirm the neckline and then come down somewhere around that target. So if you're debating getting out of the long, I would think about putting a take profit in right at the neckline.
Yeah, especially this Williams VIX is all green. I think the Chinese market's going to determine the direction either tonight or really early in our morning. So like, 4 o'clock when the European retail market comes in. Because if you have a look at this, we've got the green candles here showing we could swing up. So this is it's a watching and a waiting game, guys. It really is, because normally at the bottom of a channel, it looks like this is going to go up, right? However, you've got 1, 2, 3 resistance lines you're going to immediately hit. Your head's going to hit it. And then it could force it down. And the more often that happens, the more often we could come to the downside. We have a bearish divergence, and we have this head and shoulders, and it's Friday going into the weekend. So all things considered, it's a waiting game, I think, for a better entry point, maybe Saturday morning, if not on Sunday when volume comes back in. But we're going to go now, guys. I just want to remind you, get your tickets before they go up. You don't want to pay an extra $400 when you don't need to. And you're going to want to be at this amazing, amazing event right around when we think the next super cycle is, and this is a super cycle that's going to turn people into millionaires, multi-millionaires, and billionaires. And if you want to be one of them, you want to hear what our experts have to say about how to make the most of this market, right? MMCrypto, Da Vinci J, Michael Rosmer from Offshore Citizen, me, Teresa. 2 more surprise speakers we'll tell you about. We're just confirming them right now. Didi Taihutu from the Bitcoin family just confirmed today. The blockchain today, Marzel Money, and many, many more. Oh, and let me shout out Wendy, Crypto Wendy, because
Crypto Wendy, brilliant lady.
Many women say yes.
Yeah. Not many of us women in this space, so it's fun to be able to promote Crypto Wendy. She's brilliant. Yeah.
We want to and she's going to talk about moonbagging altcoins to millions. Yeah. So I'm like, what the heck does that mean? So awesome. You want to be there. So guys, tomorrow, mañana, after the farmers market, logging back in to see where we're at with our crypto, and give us a like if you like the fact that Teresa and I are wearing the exact same top.
We're being twins today. Thank you for the awesome questions. Guys, thank you for the awesome comments in the thing. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing the channel. All the donations to this channel and all the money we make when you use the affiliate links, and all the money we're making, the proceeds from the Conscious Crypto event, are going to support infrastructure development in our community down here in Costa Rica. We're helping build roads and a commercial kitchen and a water catchment area. So thank you guys, because that's helping us support our local community in creating a lot of jobs. So we deeply appreciate you from the bottom of our heart. And until next time,
trade consciously.
We'll see you soon, guys.
What is going on here?
Are we still live?
We
I
are.
can tell them a story about our dog.
Tell the story about
Thanks,
the dog.
thanks for joining us, guys. We have
going
the funnest little dog here in Vista Mundo. She was feral when we got her. She used to be an adopted dog of our watchman, and she just got adopted by the community. So she's not very well trained, but she's full of personality. Oh my God. And she's about a third bigger than a Chihuahua, and the coolest little dog you ever want to meet. She's got the heart of a lion. So when you come down and visit us after the Conscious Crypto events go live, you can meet Mia.
Okay, guys.